If you would all mute yourself now, if you haven't already, and then make your way onto your mat. Lay back onto our backs, settling in so that we can feel both shoulder blades and both hips making contact with the floor. That right side equally weighted as the left side. Legs straight or bent, whichever you prefer. Just let the arms rest out at the sides with the palms facing up. Let's let the eyes close down. Take a moment to let your body simply settle into this space on the mat. Letting your mind begin to settle as well. Let's just watch a few cycles of breath so we can notice where and how the breath is moving this evening without changing anything. Just feeling the sensation of the air as it moves through the nostrils, down the back of the throat, and sorry, there was a call coming through that I had to just be quiet and let the lady stop talking in my ear. So hopefully you were just watching your breath there and noticing if there was any rigidity, any tightness, any sharp corners that the breath is trying to work its way around. And then when you're ready, we'll deepen that breath and see if we can't soften any sharp edges to it. So let's move into our 3-part breath. Just letting the next inhale drift into the belly, and then into the side ribs, and then into the upper chest. Feeling that sensation of having the lungs be completely full, free, lifted. And then when you're ready, letting it all go. Just feeling the skin along the back side of the body sinking into the mat. And then when all the air has been released, we begin again. A slow, steady, deep inhale, followed by a long, luxurious exhale. Breathing in through the nose, but breathing out either through the nose or through the mouth, whichever helps you to relax more. We'll take a few more cycles here. Finish the cycle that you're on, and then let your breath return to its more natural state. Let's allow the legs to bend, and let's hug the knees into the chest. Maybe rocking a bit side to side as well. And then let's keep the right knee in towards the chest, but extend the leg out straight along the floor, flexing the foot, rooting the thigh into the mat. And then give a few little pulses on this right leg, drawing it closer towards your chest. And then we'll release the grip with the hands and let the knee just point up towards the sky and make a few little circles going one direction. This way we're lubricating the hip socket. And then go the opposite direction. And then wrap the hands around the thigh, not the shin. Now let's let that leg straighten up, maybe almost straight, far enough that you feel the hamstring stretch, but then release it back down. And let's do that 2 more times, straightening the leg just to the point where we feel the beginning of the hamstring stretch. And then it's that 3rd time through that we'll hold here, maybe even increase the stretch just a little. And this time then, as we let that leg bend, we'll set the foot on top of the left thigh. Let the arms come out like a T. And then rock over towards the left just a bit with the hips. So we come about halfway into a twist. Stay as relaxed as you can here and just watch how the breath moves in this little awkward position. And then roll back onto the back. And let's scoop the left knee into the chest. Let the right leg straighten on out, rooting into the mat. So a few little pulses, drawing that left knee closer to the chest. And then we'll release the hold on the knee and just let it point up towards the sky. Take a few circles one direction. And then the opposite direction. And then we'll wrap the hands around the thigh and unhinge that knee so the leg can straighten up. And then bend, doing this a couple more times. That 3rd time through, you can hold, maybe stretch the hamstring just a bit more. And then we'll let that leg bend again. This time the foot rests on the right thigh, arms open out into the T. And we'll take about a halfway twist over to the right. Relax here, watch what happens with the breath. And then return onto the back. Just set that left foot down. Let the right leg bend so that both feet are flat on the floor. Arms can just be at the sides now. We'll take what's called some little walking motions here. It's to help to loosen up all around the whole hip area from the inner and outer and hip flexor area. So if you press the right foot into the mat, press the right knee forward, That's going to naturally let that right hip lift. Now, as you do this, the left leg stays where it is. That left knee stays lifting towards the sky. The left hip stays on the floor. It's only the right hip that's lifted. And then very slowly lower it back down. Once you return to that neutral spine, then press the left foot into the mat, the left knee forward, which will pull the left hip up, taking care to make sure the right leg stays where it is and doesn't just flop off to the side. And then eventually slowly lower that left hip back down. You go back and forth here. The slower you move, the more depth that this stretch actually gets, deep into the tissues surrounding the hip and upper thigh area. Just going back and forth a couple more times. This is also really good for the low back as well. So if any of you have a cranky back tonight, this should help it to be feeling a little nicer. So we started with the right leg. So the next time that you are lifting through that left hip, let that be your last one. And then once again, scoop the knees into the chest. Just give them a hug in stillness here. And then we'll set the feet back down. We can make our way onto one side and then press ourselves up. Come into a mermaid position here with the legs are forming an S. Let's have the right knee towards the front, the top of your mat. And we'll let the hands frame that front leg. So maybe coming on to the fingertips to begin with. On the inhale, we'll draw the heart forward and up as we create a little bit of an arch here. And then exhale, fold over the bent leg. Inhaling, lift the torso. Exhale, fold. Once more, inhale, we'll lift. Exhale, we'll fold, and this time we'll hold. So maybe walk the hands a little forward or let your forearms stack on each other and your forehead rest on your forearms like a little pillow. Can you let your breath deepen? And can you soften that right thigh and hip? Let's come back up onto the hands. And then walk both hands over to the right. You'll walk them all the way off of your mat as we come into a bit of a twist here as well. And go ahead and look over that right shoulder. And then one more little addition here. Basically, we stay where we are, but we'll take that left hand, touch it to the right shoulder, leave it there, and let your left elbow rise up. Your gaze follows the elbow. So you're adding a little bit of an arch to the back. So we're twisting and stretching and lengthening all at once here. And then with the next exhale, just release it all, release that elbow, swing out of that twist. Let your left hand sweep around and find that left ankle. Pull it in a little closer to your bottom, and let's let the quad get a little stretch while we're here, just leaning back onto your hands or maybe onto your forearms as is comfortable for you. And then we'll return up and let's change the legs so that we have our left knee pointing to what is the top of our mat. Legs in that S. Hands on either side of the front knee. Inhaling, let's come onto the fingertips, arch the back, look up, find a length in the spine, and exhale, hinge from the hip, folding forward. And we'll do that twice more, letting the breath initiate the movement. The third time through, we'll walk the hands forward or maybe plant the forearms on top of each other and let the forehead rest there. See if you can let go of any gripping in that left thigh or the left hip, or anywhere for that matter. And we'll come back up onto the hands. And then walk the hands over to the left. They'll come all the way off of your mat. Finding a twist here, looking over the left shoulder. And then let's place the left or the right hand touching the left shoulder. And then begin to lift that right elbow. The gaze lifts as well. Find another little arch in the back while you're twisted. And then release. Slide out of that twist. Let your right hand reach behind and tuck your right foot underneath your bottom a little more. And let's lean back either onto the hands or onto the elbows, forearms. Open up that right quad. And we'll come back up. Place the hands back on the mat so that we can find our way into a tabletop. While we're here, we'll just halfway thread the needle a few times. So we'll root the left hand down, sweep the right arm out to the side and then up to the sky, reaching as high as you can, and then let the arm float back down. Same thing with the next breath. Opening up, reaching, and then floating the hand back down. And we'll take it to the other side. So inhaling the left arm out and up. Exhale, it releases down. Inhale up. And exhale down back into that tabletop. And here we'll tuck the toes under. Let's lift into our first down dog, letting the feet pedal back and forth. And then slowly walking the feet towards the hands so that we can land in a ragdoll, leaving the knees bent, letting that upper body just spill from the hips.
Let's engage the core and then sweep the arms out and up. Exhale, we'll dive halfway down, hands to the knees. Inhale, lengthen the spine. And exhale, slide the hands down the shins any amount, letting the legs straighten a bit more, but they don't need to go all the way straight. Yeah, feeling that stretch all along the back of both legs. Let's leave the right leg almost straight, or you can go ahead and straighten it up now because we'll let the left knee bend. Left hand can take hold of the right ankle or shin, and let's let the right hand reach up towards the sky. And then notice how you've got your weight distributed on your feet, especially that right foot. Let's make sure that the big toe side of the foot is pressing just as much into the mat as the pinky toe side. And we'll switch the legs here. Let that arm come down, the left leg straightens, right knee bends. Left arm sweeps out and up, and then we make sure that we are fully rooted on the entire left foot. Let that arm sweep down, both knees bend. Once again, we're in a rag doll. This time, let's let the upper body sway a bit side to side. And then maybe let the upper body be still, but let the head shake in slow motion. No, yes. And then ever so slowly, let's roll up, letting each vertebrae stack. Eventually in a landing fully upright and pausing for a breath here. And let's meet at the top of the mat. Let's start with our open hipped poses tonight, starting with a warrior. And you know what? Let's take one of our blocks and just place it right in between the feet. We'll use that as a variation tonight. So we'll step the right foot back, opening the hips out to the side, lining that left knee up so it's right over the left ankle. Your block will naturally be right to the side of it. And we'll let the arms float up into our basic warrior, settling in here for a few breaths. And then with the next inhale, let's take that reverse warrior with the left arm reaching up, right hand sliding down the back leg. Focus on allowing that breath to move fully into the left side ribs here. Now let's let that back arm, the right arm, come up as well. So the palms can touch while we're in this warrior. And then let the legs straighten. Arms are still reaching for the sky here. And then we'll take it into the triangle. So letting the arms come back out like a T, letting the pelvis shift. Reach, letting that left hand slide down either to your shin or maybe to the block. Letting that right arm reach to the sky. And then we'll let the left leg bend again. This is where we'll use the block. And I'd like you to put that left hand on the block, probably at its tallest orientation. Maybe you'd want the block in front of your leg, like I have it here, or you might want to move it to the pinky toe side of your shin. Either way, you could play with both, but let's take our side angle this way. Slide the right heel back further and further so the pelvis drops down, and then reach that right arm overhead. We're trying to make one diagonal line from the right pinky finger all the way down to the outer heel. And when you're ready to come back into the warrior, you can use that hand on the block to sort of push off and rise up just a little bit. And then the hands find the hips. We'll walk that back foot up until we're ready to step up to the top of the mat. Reconnect with your breath. And then let's step back with the left foot, opening the hips out to the right edge of the mat, settling into our basic warrior here. And then making this a reverse warrior, reaching that right arm up. And once you settle into that variation, then let your focus be on those right ribs. Feel them expanding, opening, separating to accommodate that deeper breath and stretch. Now we'll let the left arm reach up to meet the right, maybe the palms touch. And then we'll reach up so much with the arms that the right leg straightens. And then we'll let the arms fan out, the pelvis tilt so we can find our triangle pose. Maybe using the block for the variation today. And we'll let that right knee bend again. So we'll take our side angle using the block instead of the elbow on the thigh. So choose whether you want the block inside your shin or outside. And then let the pelvis sink down, let that left heel slide back another inch or two, and then reach the left arm overhead, seeing if you can get a sense for, a feel for that diagonal line that you're creating, even if the line is only in your mind and not actually in your left side. And launch back into the warrior. Hands can find the hips, and we return to the top of the mat. Pause for a breath here. And then for our balance pose tonight, let's take a tree pose, but we'll take the scenic route to get there. So we'll start
facing forward. And we'll stand on the left foot, engage that core. And let's first bring the right knee up in front. You can let the foot just dangle from the knee. And then open the knee out to the side like we're doing a half frog. And then from there, let the sole of the foot find your inner thigh, shin, or ankle. And then you can settle in to your tree pose, letting the arms sweep up and overhead. Now we'll come out of the pose the same way or the opposite as what we went into it. We just let the foot come away, the knees go out to the side. And then we bring the knee forward. And then we set the foot down. And then we let go of whatever that experience was. So that we can ground into the right foot, engage the core. Let's lift the left knee forward and then out to the side. And then let the sole of the foot find the inside of the right leg somewhere as the arms rise up. And when we turn the opposite, let the foot release away, and then let the knee come forward, and we set the foot down. Reconnect. And then let's turn to face the wide edge of the mat. And I suggest bringing the blocks with you because we will be doing our lunge from one side to the other while we're here. And I like to use the blocks as arm extenders for that little sequence. But first, just set the blocks down. Let's let the toes point to the corners of the mat and come into our wide leg squat. Hands to the knees or elbows to the knees as we shift the weight side to side. And then let one shoulder drop down in front. And then the opposite shoulder comes to front. And we turn that shoulder up. Now we'll take hold of the blocks. And let's start to walk the blocks over towards the left as we pivot on the feet so that we can come into a low lunge with the left foot forward. Just wiggle that right foot back further and further, maybe even letting the knee touch down and the top of the foot press into the mat if you like. Onto the fingertips onto the blocks, lifting through the crown. Engage the right glute so you can press that right hip crease forward even more. And then maybe let the right arm reach up to the sky. Now let that hand reach back down to the block. Tuck the toes so we can lift the knee back up. And then start to travel nice and slow all the way to the other side of the mat. So that eventually we end up in a lunge with the right foot forward, You wiggle the left foot back further and further until maybe we can let the knee touch down, the top of the foot pressing into the mat. Come up onto the fingertips to get a little more lift through the spine. And then engage the left glute to help press that left hip crease open forward. And if you want more still, let the left arm rise up. And then we let that hand come back down to the block. Tuck the toes so we can lift the knee. And then one more time, walk the blocks over to the wide edge of the mat. This time, stay facing the wide edge, letting all the toes face the wide edge as well. But a little bend in the knees. And then from here, hinge from the hips to lower the torso down. Stack the blocks as needed so that you can let your head rest on something, whether it's your forehead or the hairline or the crown of the head. And then once you've got your head supported, then press in with the heels, lift through the sit bones, possibly let the legs come straight, maybe not. And let your upper body relax into the support you've created. See if you can feel your breath moving all the way down to your tailbone. And then when ready, lift the head. Let's bring the heels in so the toes are again pointing to the corners and return to that wide leg squat. So some options, you could stay right here, or you can lock the feet in a little more and set the bottom down. There's a little cheater here I can show you since we've got the blocks and they're at the tallest orientation. You could set the blocks behind you if you're not quite ready for a garland pose, and then you sit on the blocks, and then voila, it's like you're in a garland without doing all the work. Or you can not use the blocks and truly sink the bottom all the way down into a full garland. Sometimes it's fun to soften things up and use the block. One more breath here. And then you lift through the hips, roll back upright. Once again, kneading at the top of the mat. And before we go back down onto the mat, let's take one side bend while we're here. So let's plant the feet, hips distance apart, and let's take one of our blocks and put the block in between the thighs. It's a really nice way to ground down to a side bend. So lightly squeezing the block and pressing the feet into the floor and engaging the core. Then we'll sweep the arms up overhead. Let the palms touch or face each other. As we root down through the feet, let's rise through the crown and rise through the fingertips. And then on an exhale, take a side bend to the right as you let the hips sway to the left. 3 breaths here.
And then keep squeezing that block and keep the core engaged as you pull the hips back in line, and that's going to let your body straighten back up. Pause for an ordinary breath here. And then once again, ground down through the feet, rise through the fingertips, and with that length, then on the exhale, take your side bend to the left, letting the hips jut out to the right. So it's one big arc or a sliver of the moon. And keep squeezing the block and keep the core engaged as you pull the hips back in line, returning upright. And then exhaling, swan dive down. Go ahead and keep the block in between the thighs. I know it's there. Let the hands touch the mat. Let your feet walk back into a downward facing dog, still squeezing the block. You can leave your heels lifted, leave the knees a little bent. And then press in with the hands, lift through the hips, keep squeezing the block. Let the legs straighten a little and then let the heels drop down. Still keep squeezing the block. That's the whole variation of it tonight. Let your head hang heavy. Let your lowest ribs start reaching for your thighs. And let your breath deepen. And then with the next exhale, you can slowly set the knees down. If you're ever having like hip issues when we're doing down dog, this is a really great way to stabilize the hips is by hugging onto the block in between your thighs as you do them. But for now, let's walk the knees over to one side so that you can have a seat. And go ahead and lay back onto your back. Let's cross the right ankle over the left thigh. Keep that foot flexed. Maybe just nudge the right thigh away from you, or you can scoop that left leg in to create a reclining figure four. You can hold in stillness here, or you might like to create a little bit of an arch with your back and then a little bit of a curl with your back. Moving back and forth, you'll find that stretch moves around your hip and thigh area just by creating that little arch and curl. And then release the foot down and uncross the leg. And then we'll take that left ankle to the right side, keeping the foot flexed. Maybe pulsing on that left thigh a few times. And then when you're ready, scooping the hands around the right leg. Find our figure four. Settling in stillness for a few breaths. And then deciding if you want to add that miniature version of an arch and curl.
And then release, set the right foot down. Let's take hold of the left thigh though. And let's straighten the left leg up towards the sky once more. This will be our deepest hamstring stretch. So the leg can come nearly straight. Let the foot flex. And then walk your hands as far up towards the foot as you can. Find that already good hamstring stretch. And then consider slowly stretching the right leg out a little straighter and a little straighter. And with the next exhale, walk the hands back towards the thigh on that left leg. Set the foot down, leave the leg bent and where it is, and then bring the right leg in so we can find the initial hamstring stretch here. And then slowly let the left leg begin to stretch out straight, intensifying this on the right hand. With the next exhale, walk the hands back down to the thigh. Set that foot down, let the left leg bend as well. Pause briefly here. And then scoop the knees in towards the armpit. Find the ankles or the feet opening up into a happy baby. And then draw the soles of the feet together, pressing heels to groin in our bound angle. And release. And then we'll set up for our twist. Now, if you've got crazy hips, then you might take the twist with a block in between the thighs and a block in between the shins. And that just keeps the hips from overstretching. So once you get your blocks secured, and it's kind of a fun way to do the twist anyway, even if your hips aren't bugging yet. We have the knees in towards the chest and the arms out like a T. And then with an exhale, we'll let the knees drop over towards the left. Anchor them into place with that left hand. Reach with the right arm, turning as if to look over the right shoulder, but the eyes stay closed. Breathing here. With your next exhale, you have to keep squeezing those blocks so you don't lose them as you roll back onto your back. Pause for a breath or two. And then when you're ready, let an exhale carry the knees over to the right as you reach to the left and settle into your twist. And then with the next exhale, you can return onto the back. This time you can take the blocks away and set them off to the side. Tuck the feet down, arms at the sides. We'll finish up with a bridge pose, slowly rolling the hips up, lifting them high, and once they are as high as they will go, we'll let the arms float overhead. Anchor them in place, and then on the exhale, slowly roll out, one vertebrae at a time, leaving the arms extended overhead, even once the sacrum touches down. Feel how expansive your breath is now. And then with the next exhale, you can release the arms to wherever you'd like them to be, stretching out with the palms up. Wiggle around on your hips until they feel right, and then let your legs stretch out. Maybe the toes falling out to the side. Notice if you feel equally weighted, the right side and the left side, or if you need to make any little adjustments. And then when you're ready, let your eyes float closed. Take a deep breath in. And then exhaling, let go of your head, allowing it to sink into the mat. Soften the skin along your forehead, the skin of your temples. Imagine softening your cheekbones and the tip of your nose and the lobes of your ears. let this softness begin to travel down your neck, through your shoulders, down your arm, into your hands, and into your fingers. Then let your awareness return to your shoulders, inviting them to soften again. Let this softness now travel into your chest, into your belly, your low back, and then on down into the hips, into the legs, the feet, and the toes. The front side of your body, softly releasing towards your back. The back side of your body, softly releasing into the mat. As you simply become aware of what it feels like to be completely relaxed. Feel free to stay here as long as you like, or if you're ready to end the class with me, let's take a deep breath in. And then on the exhale, create a little movement in the hands and feet. Softly bending the knees. Let's roll to one side. Linger for another breath or two here. And then as you're ready, gently press yourself up into any seated position. Sitting up tall, bringing the hands to the heart. Sealing your practice with your own quiet prayer or a moment of stillness. And eventually releasing the hands to the lap, allowing the eyes to slowly open, and we return to our day. I thank you all very much for joining me. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. And until next time, I wish you peace.